W5FC.
KE5KRI.
KI6LZQ here, and I'm just getting bored, and I'm probably going to check my eyelids for leaks in a few minutes, but wanted to hopefully find something to chit-chat with about something intellectual.
Station transmitting, didn't catch your call sign. Kilo Echo 5, Kilo Romeo India.
This is Kilo India 6 Lima Zulu Quebec, and yes, I was originally licensed in the 6th land and relocated out here to Texas, and I'm loving it. But I hate getting into politics, but they're a wee bit too liberal for my liking up there. KI6LZQ.
KI6LZQ. Well, very nice. It's good to hear you in there, and we just recently moved to the area as well. My name is Edward here, and we really enjoy living in this area. It's a very nice place. How long have you lived in this area?
I stayed in Dallas for just over 11 years until an unlicensed driver hit me at 55 miles an hour in a 35 zone and broke both ankles at least 4 times each, both femurs, both tibias, 2 vertebrae in each of the 3 sections of my back, 3 ribs, and a whole lot of other stuff. Knocked me into knocked me into a coma, and actually killed me, and then I had to be revived and woke up into the hospital. And this was back in December of last year, and unfortunately I'm just now getting out of the rehab center the hospital sent me to and going into a assisted living facility. But instead of putting me back in Dallas where I came from, because nobody will take the insurance the way I think they should, but oh well, I'm having to go to Arlington, and it's just kind of interesting because my understanding is they don't even have a bus system in Arlington, and it's going to be awkward trying to relearn public transit, relearn the lay of the land, learning what's where, what neighborhoods to avoid, getting new friends, etc., etc. But you know what? I'm blessed, and I'm wanting to inspire other people to remind themselves that they're blessed, because based on what I know, somehow or other there's an entity out there that's already taking care of those things on the behalf of people who can't. KI6LZQ.
Well, that's a very interesting story. That's too bad that all that happened to you. Boy, howdy. It's definitely been a hell of a long year for you, and I'm very glad to hear that things are going better. I'll definitely keep you on my prayer list. And what's your name? KE5KRI.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
I'm going to shut up and listen in for Skynet. KI6LZQ.
And does anybody need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet?
KE5KRI, we're clear.
All right, thank you. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy, and our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break very enthusiastically in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a field tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is Whiskey 5 Fried Chicken, W5FC.org, right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome and need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, discussion topics of the evening, was up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. We may or may not get to all those sections, but we'll try. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with round one, which is low power and short time check-ins. If you're one of those, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power or short time.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas. Low power, 5 watts.
Kilo Golf 5 Papa, far southeast Richardson, 5 watts, KG5P.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
This is Station Kilo Echo 5 Kilo Romeo India, Dallas, low power.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
Kilo India 5 Quebec Yankee Lima, James Grand Prairie, low power.
All right, that was pretty healthy for the low power check-ins. I have a W5GUS Gus, far northeast Dallas. I got KG5P, that's Mike, and southeast Richardson, I think, something like that. Hi, Mike. WB4MFI, that's Ted in Dallas. KE5KRI in Dallas. Can I have your name, please?
Yes, sir. Station KE5KRI. Sorry about that. The name is Edward. Echo Delta Whiskey Alpha Romeo Delta. Back to net control.
Very good. Thank you, Edward. KE5KRI in Dallas. KG5EIU. That would that'd be David in St. Paul. And I got KE5QYL, James in Grand Prairie. Welcome all. This is low power. Short time. Does anybody have anything they want to that has just checked in would like to bring to the net now? We'll take you first before your batteries die. Anyone, please come with your call. All right, nothing heard. We'll go ahead and take general check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo Jacob, Farmers Branch, Texas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima, James, and Carrollton.
Oh, I have a feeling we're going to lose a lot of people tonight because of the marathon tomorrow, but let me see. I got a few here. I got K5 KTX, that's Kelly in Quinlan, KG5 UFR, Jacob in Farmers Branch, K5 JHA Chaz in Mesquite, KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in Carrollton. I'll take additional check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo Alpha 5 Tango Oscar Whiskey East Dallas.
Okay, I picked up 4 more. I'm going to need a fill. I got N5BB, Bill in Irving, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, KF5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, and then I had the call, I'm not sure, Kilo, I'm not sure. I may have a Kilo Alpha 5 Tango Oscar Whiskey. Does that even sound close? It broke up there a little bit, so I wrote down what I thought I heard over in Dallas. Could I get your complete call and name, please?
Kilo Alpha 5 Tango Oscar Whiskey, and the name is John in East Dallas.
All right, thank you, Don. I did get you. Kilo Alpha 5 Tango Oscar Whiskey over in East Dallas. All right, any additional over-air check-ins before I go to Echolink? Okay, we're going to go to Echolink. If you're over on Echolink, you can either type in the chat that you're there, and I'll check you in, or if you'd like to go by voice, now's the time. Please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time. I think there's only a couple here, but we'll take your check-ins. Oh, they're so quiet over there. I have N5IMS, JJ in Carrollton. I got KE5JIT, Randy in Louisville. Okay, one more round, then we get started. Any additional check-ins, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Good evening, this is Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
Norman, Oklahoma.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, Near Weatherford Mobile.
Okay, we picked up 3 more. I've got AG9SG. That's Antonio and Dallas. Welcome back, Antonio. K5JDW, John in his winter home in Norman, Oklahoma. KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Mobile. All right. Well, maybe you're nearer Weatherford than normal, but I got you checked in. All right. These are the check-ins so far. Let's see here. We have, next up, do we have any general announcements this evening? These can be of ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed ham.
KF5JHA.
KF5JHA. Chaz, you're the guy this evening. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. I have some sad news this evening, but I want to tell all of you about John Wagner. He's been a pillar in the astronomy community for decades. He's been a member of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas for decades and has done so many things. He was a frequent contributor to the TASS newsletter for many, many years. He also helped start the Texas Star Party that we talk about on this net all the time. He also started the observing programs for the Astronomical League that I talk about every week during the Constellation of the Week. John also did special observing programs at each Texas Star Party. I've earned several of John's pins for the Observing Awards over the last many years, since 2006. Last night, during the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Awards program, John was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award for his work. I think this is the first time they've ever issued this award. And the name of the road at the Texas Astronomical Society dark site was named in his honor, and they showed the road signs will be put up sometime in the spring in his honor. John was actually at the TASS Awards program Zoom session, that's what it was, Zoom session, only briefly last night, and he did not hear his honoring. This morning, unfortunately, John passed away. He'd been in ill health and had a series of health problems over the last many years. We are going to miss him greatly. So let's take just a moment to honor him. Thank you, everyone. We'll probably have some more information in the coming weeks about John and his achievements. This is KF5JJ, back to our net control.
KG5P.
Hey, Mike, KG5P, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Yeah, I knew John. He was a great guy. He had the observing program, and he'd give pins if you completed his observing program at the at the Texas Star Party. So definitely a great guy, and we'll miss him. KG5P.
All right, Thank you, Mike. I never met him. I did see him at the TAS meetings a couple of times, and I saw a lot of posts about him over on the Facebook page. So I didn't know about him, but I didn't know him personally, but I did know a little bit about him, and I know that he was well loved by the Texas Astronomical Society for all his contributions. Thanks for sharing that. And sad that it's bad news, but thank you for sharing that information. This is KE5ICX and net control for tonight. I have an alternate net control. She is not a ham, but she is my niece, and believe it or not, she was on this net about 10 years ago. Almost 10 years ago. We got a 10th anniversary coming up, and in fact, she did it might have been 9 years ago, I guess. So she's going to go ahead and read the announcements for tonight, and maybe a few other sections too, since my voice is probably going to give out. So it was perfect that she ended up here tonight. So I'm going to put her in front of the chair here. She's going to read you the announcements that you know and love, and then after that, we'll continue with the net. This is KE5ICX with third-party traffic general announcements. And her name is Gabby.
The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You will need Echo Link installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas/Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater. I'm going to hope that I don't need to say that because I don't know how to.
AMSATnet.com?
Yeah. NHYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is dark club night, no AMSAT East night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. Positive offset. This next part is optional. As everyone...
You don't have to read that.
Oh, okay. As you all can tell, I'm very talented with this, so please bear with me.
DAR hosted nets. Talk about that. These are all the hosted nets.
DAR hosted nets. Do I need to...
When you do it, yeah, you drop carrot.
Okay.
And then this is Mondays at 7 o'clock.
Okay. All right. This is Mondays at 7 o'clock. First week is Ham Fixin's Net. Second week is MCOM 101. Third week is Ham Fixin's Net. Fourth week is GeekNet. And fifth week is a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. So on-air participation is encouraged. So please participate. Just do it. On Tuesdays, AMSAT East at 8 p.m., Q&As, info and news for amateur satellites. And on Fridays, you have Search City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disastrous city in the universe every Friday. Search City. All are welcome. And then on Saturdays, TechNet, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., and of course, Skynet. And first and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, MOTA. And then daily, ALNet, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in or on all of these nets. Yes. And then tonight's Afterglow info. Zach turned the radio up, but the noise from the guy's super speeder next door was overwhelming. Zach looked out the window, shook his fist at the leather-clad man, and shouted something at him. Of course, the man couldn't understand him. That's the way it was when the when an Aussie moves in next door with his police interceptor without talking to the neighborhood. Zach listened for a bit more, and then the engine stopped engineing. Silence was everywhere. The car remained, but the leather-clad man was gone, and so was the rest of the neighborhood. In fact, everyone seemed missing. Zach listened to his telephone voice recorder and had 2 messages. The first was from his neighbor, Max Roxikonsky. Of course, no one could understand him with that accent. The second from his office. Zach, something went wrong with your experiment. People are disappearing right and left. Oh, and you need to clean your lunch stuff out of the refrigerator. But before the whining employee could finish her comment, the message went dead. Join us for the New Zealand production of The Quiet Earth, 1985, Saturday, December 11th at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all of the dark events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org.
She was so nervous.
I was.
That's all right. She gets another part in here in a little bit. As soon as I go hoarse, she'll be able to do it. So we got Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. So let's see here. I know we've got a couple of members. So anybody like to bring up the latest and greatest on the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas? Please come with your call.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
KF5JHA. Go ahead, Chaz.
We want to...
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clara Mesquite, checking in.
Is your alternate net control. She's wearing a doggone good shirt. You're just plain shirt, so just thought I'd let you know. Okay, so, I need to tell you something else about John Wagner. I found out with the awards program last night that he was a pretty interesting person, even maybe more ornery than I am, so I'm going to have to try harder from now on. Okay. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 28th. We don't have a meeting in December because we just had the awards program, and that's what we do instead. So January 28th at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be held on Zoom. Dr. Noah Pearson from Montana State University will be the featured speaker. I think, I didn't write down the topic, so I will get that next week. Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold because of COVID. One of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the TASS public observing sessions that are also held on Saturday nights. Check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And back to Net Control, this is KF5JHA.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz. And next up is National Space Society events and activities, and that one's Bill, N5BB. Bill, you have anything for us this week?
Why, of course, Tom. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. If you have any questions about National Space Society, you want to join or other things, you can send me an email at space@byram.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. Or you can send me an email at my ARL address, n5bb@ARL.net. So we're going to have a big event tomorrow. tomorrow is our normal meeting date every month. It's the second Sunday of every month. Instead of meeting, we are going to have a meeting on WebEx, and if you want to participate, you can send me an email at the address I just mentioned. But we're also going to have an in-person meeting that's at a party to honor Wally Funk. Mary Wallace Funk that went up with Jeff Bezos in West Texas into space. And for a few weeks, she was the oldest person to ever go into space until William Shatner went up, and he was even older. So Wally Funk lives in Grapevine, but the church she goes to is in South Lake. And so that's where this event's going to be. It's a large Methodist church. So they're going to have a buffet about noon, and dinner, lunch, and then an event to kind of honor Wally. There'll probably, pictures and things like that, autographs with Wally Funk. And then we'll have our National Space Society chapter meeting in one of their rooms there that has a large projection TV, a projector. And our presenter will be presenting from Maryland. It's going to be Dr. Kelly Fast. And Dr. Fast, by the way, is N3XUJ. I was talking to her on the phone and mentioned I was a ham, and she says, "Oh, I am too." She's had her extra class license for over 20 years. Her favorite mode is CW. Oh, it's perfect. We bonded really well there. Anyway, she is going to be the presenter. She is she's got a very important position at NASA. She works for the Office of Planetary Protection. That's what it's called. This is N5BB. And her title, she's the program manager for the Near-Earth Object Observations Program. So anything that's looking at near-Earth objects, comets, or mainly asteroids that could hit the Earth, all that information coming back from ground-based telescopes internationally, from space probes and satellites, you name it, all that information is going back through her office. And then she works for the Planetary Protection Officer. So anyway, she's going to be making that presentation. The presentation is going to be at our normal time, 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, Central Time, on WebEx. So if you'd like to participate in that, again, send me an email, space@byram.net, or n5bb@arrl.net, and I can give you info. Also, you can directly go and sign up for the WebEx session yourself. You have to sign up in advance at space.cent.com. I'll spell that. http://SPACE.com. Space.cent.com. If you go to that page, you'll see a registration page. If you don't see it, click on the register button, and then you'll see the registration page. Fill it out, and then once I approve it, you'll get an email from the WebEx system with information on how to listen to Dr. Kelly Fast. As I talked about last week and the week before, as we talked about the DART, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, is up. And although she was not involved with that satellite directly, her office is tangentially involved with the results of that test. She's mostly involved with the observations, the astronomical observations of asteroids for Earth protection. That's all I've got, Tom, in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And this is KE5ICX Net Control for tonight's Skynet. Next up is the discussion topic of the evening. This one I found is an article from several years ago, so it's a little dated. You'll figure out where it's dated in the parts that you hear it. As read by Gabby, having to do about the Apollo 8. It's a bit of an opinion piece, but it's a historical one. It is Scientific American, after all, talking about the Apollo 8 mission from 1968. So here we go.
Thought it was no big deal. He and his Apollo 8 crewmates, Frank Borman and Jim Laveau, were on their fourth orbit of the moon, passing over the far side, farther from home than any human beings had ever been, when they happened to see the Earth beginning to peek over the lunar horizon. It was December 24th, 1968. Oh my God, look at that picture over there. There's the Earth coming up. Wow, is that pretty, said Anders, the crew's lead photographer. He fired off a single frame in black and white, while Laveau found him some colored film. He took a few more shots, then went back to business. Of the 865 still pictures the astronauts took, only 14 show the Earth with the lunar horizon in the foreground. We had a mission to do. We weren't sent as poets, Anders says now. We'd had no briefing on taking Earth pictures. It wasn't a big emotional event. It was a big thing. But one of those shots came to be known as Earthrise. And on any list of the most important photographs of all time, it almost always ranks near the top. For all the risk and effort involved, all the money America spent, all the symbolism about attaining the impossible, the sight of the tiny blue Earth from deep space, it's probably the Apollo program's greatest gift to us. In retrospect, that first sighting by the crew of Apollo 8 has eclipsed all that came after. Even, I invite disagreement, the landing of Apollo 11 on the lunar surface less than a year later. There were only 9 Apollo flights to circle or land on the moon, and they happened during an all-too brief period of less than 4 years. Neil Armstrong's first lunar footstep was the most watched moment in the history of exploration. But polls show that Americans' enthusiasm for their space program had already peaked with Apollo 8, when Borman, Laveau, and Anders read from the book of Genesis as they orbited the moon on Christmas Eve. 100 years from now, when people reflect on our space effort, they won't bother with Apollo 13, despite the movie and all the hoopla, Anders says, referring to NASA's famous near disaster. But they'll certainly remember the first step on the moon, though they may not remember who made it. And the Earthrise picture will go down as an historic image of its time. And yet, as its afterglow has faded over the years, voices has steadily risen, expressing regret that the Apollo program's sense of boundlessness possibility has somehow dissipated. If we could go back to the moon in the 1960s, they ask, why don't we have bases on the moon now? Why, for that matter, haven't we sent astronauts on to Mars? We have the ability, goes to argument, but we no longer have the will. Except that we no longer have the ability either, at least for now. Historians of science say America got what it paid for from Apollo, a Cold War victory over the Soviet Union, with little capacity to follow up. The Trump White House, like several administrations before it, has plans to send astronauts back to the moon. But even if everything goes right, the plan will take 12 years to do what Apollo accomplished in 8. In many ways, the space race echoed other, earlier competitions. Are far from perfect, but think of Ronald Amundsen and Robert Falcon Scott racing to the South Pole in 1911, or Charles transatlantic airplane flight in 1927 that won him a $25,000 prize and worldwide fame. Even Columbus and Magellan were out for profit, trying to find new trade routes for Spain before the Portuguese did. All of these have gone down in history as voyages of exploitation, but in their time they were competitive efforts with similar results. There was a sprint towards a goal, and then with victory in hand, a retreat. Amundsen did not start a wave of polar settlements. Lindbergh, who had been an airmail pilot, is not the reason for intercontinental airline travel. Exploitation can lead to great things. People may even reach the moon, but historians say it rarely happens for its own sake, or as an effort to push back the frontiers of knowledge. The reasons for going tend to be more parochial. Roger Langus, the former NASA and Smithsonian historian, talks of the 4 Gs: guns, gold, glory, and God. And Apollo was about glory. That leaves out other important words, such as sustainability or science. John F. Kennedy, the martyred U.S. president, is often lionized as the father of America's lunar triumph, even though Apollo was conceived a year before he took office in 1961, and NASA had plans for a moon landing sometime after 1970. When he spoke about space, his words could soar. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained, and new rights to be won, and they must be won and used for the progress of all people, he said in September 1962. But 2 months later, in a closed meeting about NASA funding, Kennedy sounded testy. Everything that we ought to really be tied into, getting onto the moon ahead of the Russians, when he said NASA's then administrator, James Webb, asked for money to study the environment of space. When Webb pleaded, Kennedy cut him off. Otherwise, we shouldn't be spending this kind of money, because I'm not that interested in space. John F. Kennedy? Not that interested in space? After Yuri Gagarin's surprise world's first orbital spaceflight from the Soviet Union in 1961, Kennedy made it clear he wanted the U.S. to be first at something in space, and it didn't terribly matter what that something was. John Logson, now a professor emeritus of space policy at George Washington University, writes that Kennedy later made overtures to the Soviets for cooperative flights, certainly less expensive than a race. But then, when they didn't respond, he instead asked NASA if they could land astronauts on the moon by 1966. That turned out to be too ambitious, but Kennedy's challenge to land astronauts on the moon before the decade was out pushed existing technology to its limits. The modest operandi of the Apollo flights, sending a command ship with 3 astronauts to orbit the moon, and then landing 2 of them in a lunar module, was chosen because it saved weight, fuel, and development time. The lunar module was a remarkable piece of technology, in no small part because it was the minimum needed to do the job. Anything expendable, such as seats for the crew, was stripped away. Apollo 8, originally planned as a test of the lunar module in Earth orbit, became a around-the-moon flight because the lunar module wasn't ready, and because intelligence suggested that the Soviets might be about to try a moon flight of their own. Logston wrote in 1970 that Apollo, like the Panama Canal and the interstate highway system before it, could be a model for other great governmental ventures in the future. If we could go to the moon, it seemed, we could do anything. But as the years passed, the moon flights receded into history. Logston changed its mind. Yes, he says, Apollo showed government could do great things under the right conditions, but in hindsight, he believes the conditions that led to the moon effort were unique and unlikely to occur ever again. I do not think there will be another Kennedy moment, he says, certainly not in space, and probably nowhere else. The Trump administration's set plans for the lunar return are the latest in a long line of as yet unsuccessful efforts to prove such thinking wrong. NASA's current marching orders from the White House call for the space agency to place a space station called the Gateway in lunar orbit, a much better starting point, it says, than Earth for constructing settlements on the lunar surface and embarking on missions to Mars. And this time, the plan's architects insist that the government will not bear the burden alone. Instead, exploring beyond low Earth orbit through extensive partnerships with private industry and other cooperative spacefaring nations. This more equitable distribution of labor and responsibilities, they say, would advance the national interest by straightening international relations and bolstering the competitiveness of U.S. science and industry. In other words, the Trump plan fits the mold, all in favor of exploitation, but not for its own sake. Space exploitation is not only essential to our character as a nation, but also our economy and our great nation's security, Trump said in 2017. This kind of competition, in a sense, sometimes pushes explorers to do something that isn't quite possible yet, but when they rush to take those historic first steps, they don't lay much groundwork for later steps, and they don't have time to figure out the meaning of what they've done. When the goal is narrow, landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth, the best you can hope for, is to achieve it without surprises. That is what happened with Apollo. It fulfilled Kennedy's mandate. After that, moon flights went back to being impossible. But there was one very pleasant surprise, and that was Apollo's 8 view back home. It was one of the few things for which the astronauts had not trained for. Today, Bill Anders says that the most striking image to him was not Earth as seen from the moon, so much as it was Earth receding in the distance as they left it behind on their outbound voyage. Arguably, that view has changed us, colored our attitude towards the environment, international affairs, and our place in this universe, more than Apollo's other accomplishments. It took a while to affect me, Anders says, this beautiful blue ball against the darkest black you could imagine, getting smaller and smaller as we went. It made me realize how insignificant our little planet was.
Thank you, Gabby, for doing that. And this is KE5ICX. Next up is Chaz again, KF5JHA, and he has What's Up.
So over here on Echolink, JJ's talking about mixing, let's see now, blue cheese and cheddar cheese together to make green cheese, and that's what the moon could be made of. Wallace and Gromit, yep, that's who probably proved that it was green cheese, yeah. I remember that. I have that video on my computers. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and the geology lab at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we call this segment of Skynet, What's Up? Slide Master, slide number 2, please. By the way, if you're watching the video segment of this on YouTube, the Slide Master is also the net control right now. He's laughing. He's in a plain old shirt. It says Brandif on it. Anyway, yesterday on December the 10th, the moon was at its first quarter phase. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. On December the 17th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. On December the 18th, the moon is full. And on December the 26th, the moon is at its third quarter phase. By the way, just to let you know, did any of you see the moon December the 6th? It was right next to Venus, and if you would have looked earlier in the day and found the crescent moon, you could have seen Venus just with your 2 eyes. We talked about that last week. Slide number 3, please. On the night of December the 13th, 14th, the Geminid meteor shower peaks with a predicted maximum of up to 150 meteors per hour. That's actually 2 every minute. That's pretty good. But the moon will be close to being full, so the fainter meteors won't be seen, so you won't see that many of them. The best time to observe meteors is the hour just before morning twilight begins, because the morning side of the Earth is what is running into the debris stream. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On December the 29th, in the southwestern evening sky, you can find Venus and Mercury in conjunction low in the sky around 6 p.m. It's kind of hard to find Mercury. The best time to see Mercury in the evening sky is actually in May and June, when it's in the evening sky. So this will be a difficult time to see, but If you can find Venus, you should be able to find Mercury. Slide number 5, please. On December the 31st, the east-southeastern morning sky, you can find the Moon and Mars and Antares in conjunction, low in the sky around 6 a.m. That's the morning sky. Slide number 6. On the night of January the 3rd and 4th, a quadranted meteor shower will peak with a maximum of around 120 meteors per hour. If observing in a dark sky as far away from the city lights. I always suggest that you visit a Texas state park. There are 80 state parks and wildlife refuges in the Texas State Park and Wildlife System, so that would be a good place to go. Slide number 7, please. On July the 4th, 2022, yep, next year's not too far away, in the southwestern evening sky, you find the Moon and Saturn in conjunction in the western sky just shortly after sunset. And slide number 8, on the next evening, January the 5th, in the low southwestern evening sky, you can observe the Moon and Jupiter in conjunction. And finally, slide number 9, on January the 13th, the two planets Mercury and Saturn will just be a few degrees apart, and their conjunction will be in the southwestern evening sky just after sunset. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 10, please. Again, the Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting. The next one will be held on January the 28th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting. Dr. Noah Pearson from Montana State University will be the featured speaker. And as Kelly reminded me, his area of study is gravitational waves, so that's probably what his topic is going to be. The task club members will receive the Zoom link to the meeting in advance of the meeting. And Saturday public observing sessions have been put on hold. Hopefully we'll be able to start that up again sometime soon. To find out more information about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, please go to texasastro.org. Now, slide number 11, please. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information I've said, or do you have just a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Wow, we are quiet. I wonder how many check-ins we do have tonight. So, slide number 12, please. So as the moon waned at the end of November, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for a world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, backdoor net control, Tom, KE5ICX. I call him Grandpa Skynet.
Oh, thank you, Chaz. And yes, you saw the slides, and they were a little mixed up. I had some of next week's slides in there, so I had to throw them off the slide projector, which is difficult to do because it's on that big round disc thing, and you got to pull them out and put the new one on, and it kind of got stuck. But at any rate, it's working fine, and you can see everything fine on the wall, just like it was supposed to be. This is KE5ICX, net control tonight. Let's move on to space exploration and space history. That would be Miss Brenda, WB50ZL. You have it from KE5ICX.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. In the news, NASA launches new mission to explore universe's most dramatic objects. NASA's Imaging X-ray Polarimetry Explorer, IXPE, mission launched at 1 a.m. EST Thursday on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. A joint effort with the Italian Space Agency, the IXPE Observatory is NASA's first mission dedicated to measuring the polarization of X-rays from the most extreme and mysterious objects of the universe, supernova remnants, supermassive black holes, and dozens of other high-energy objects. The rocket performed as expected, with spacecraft separation taking place 33 minutes into flight. Approximately 1 minute later, the spacecraft unfurled its solar arrays. IXPE entered its orbit around Earth's equator at an altitude of approximately 372 miles. And about 40 minutes after launch, mission operators received the first spacecraft telemetry data. IXPE carries 3 state-of-the-art space telescopes with special polarization-sensitive detectors. Polarization is a property of light that holds clues to the environment from which the light originates. The new mission builds on and complements the scientific discoveries of other telescopes, including the Chandra X-ray Observatory, NASA's flagship X-ray telescope. First flight operations are scheduled to begin in January. Next, Snoopy is going to space. Snoopy, the zero-G indicator for the Artemis 1 mission, was delivered to NASA's Kennedy Space Center on December 2nd, 2021, before being loaded into the Orion spacecraft ahead of launch early next year. Zero-gravity indicators are small items carried aboard spacecraft that provide a visual indicator when a spacecraft has reached the weightlessness of microgravity. Without astronauts aboard Orion, Snoopy will help share the journey with the world as he rides along in the cabin. This photo shows Snoopy looking at his ride to space, which is currently stacked atop the Space Launch System, SLS, rocket inside the Vehicle Assembly Building. NASA is collaborating under an agreement with Peanuts to educate and share information about Snoopy's journey and the mission, inspiring generations to dream big. History. The Galileo spacecraft made its first flyby of Earth on December 8th in 1990. It came within 600 miles of Earth as it continued to make its way out to Jupiter. And the Mars Pathfinder and the Sojourner rover launched to the Red Planet 5 years ago this week. The spacecraft would go on to land on Mars's surface to take photographs and collect weather data. And then the Nimbus 5. This photo shows part of the Nimbus 5 meteorological satellite being balanced during development tests. The Nimbus program was started by NASA to develop observation systems for atmospheric and Earth science satellites. This particular Nimbus satellite launched this week in 1972. Then Apollo 17, December 7th through 19th, 1972, was the final final moon landing mission of NASA's Apollo program, the most recent time humans have set foot on the moon or gone beyond low Earth orbit. The third mission to carry the lunar roving vehicle, its crew consisted of Commander Eugene Cernan, Lunar Module Pilot Harrison Schmitt, and Command Module Pilot Ronald Evans. Schmitt was the only scientist to set foot on the moon, and the mission had a heavy emphasis on science with a number of new experiments, including a biological experiment containing 5 mice carried in the command module. Next, birthdays. December 8th, 1922, John B. McKay. He flew 30 X-15 flights. He received an astronaut wings posthumously because he flew the X-15 above 50 miles. Rob Coolin, December 7th, 1983, no flights. Francisco Rubio, December 11th, 1975, no flights. He is in NASA Group 22. Matthew Dominic, December 7th, 1981, no flights, and he is also in NASA Group 22. Then Bruce E. Melnick, December 5th, 1949, STS-41 and STS-49. That's all I got. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Brenda. Thanks for doing this week's historical and news items. Next up is, we're just barreling right along here. Well, let me do this. Let me see if there's any additional check-ins before we move to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. I've got K5KOB. That's Philip over in Crandall. I do have you checked in. Let me look at all the others. I think that's it. Anyone else like to check in? Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay Mesquite.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
All right, we picked up two more. I got N5OF, Clay over in Mesquite, and Tony, NT5TM in Dallas. I think you're supposed to be in bed right now. You got to get up very early. You're way past your bedtime. Okay, next up is Chaz, Cat5JHA. Go ahead with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week.
Tom, I have it on good authority that you're way past your bedtime, too. You can't tell these kind of secrets to me. You understand, I'll use them. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations in the sky, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen from Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Andromeda the Princess. I have told the myth behind Andromeda in the past. Cassiopeia is the queen, Cepheus is the king, Andromeda is the princess, Perseus is the hero, Pegasus is the flying horse, and Cephas is the sea monster. All of these characters in this story are constellations in the sky. I'm laughing because Bob the cat is crying in the background. I don't know if you can hear him or not. Slide Master, slide number 14, please. This is the reason why everyone's staying up late, I'm sure, is to hear the jokes of the week. So, I like to have the jokes related to the constellation I'm talking about. So, princesses. How does a princess screw in a light bulb? She holds the bulb in the socket and waits for the world to revolve around her. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a pretty good one. Why didn't the Disney princess Elsa go to the doctor when she got sick? Oh, come on, this is from the movie. If you have not seen Frozen, you've got to do that. Because the cold never bothered her anyway. Remember, she gets sick and a cold. Never mind. Okay. The next one. Who is the hottest Disney princess? Well, for me, it has to be Cinderella. Get it? Cinder is hot. Okay. All right. My girlfriend is... I don't have a girlfriend, but this is a joke. My girlfriend is angry with me for incorrectly quoting The Princess Bride. Unbelievable. And if you've not seen that movie, you've got to see Princess Bride. It was my youngest daughter's favorite movie. Oh, why did Princess Leia, why did Princess Leia contract coronavirus on purpose? Okay, this might be a stretch, but because she wanted to woo Han. Okay, the final one. Princess Elsa will never catch the coronavirus because she's the master of self-isolation. Okay, maybe I better stop this one while I can. Okay, this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 15. Help me get out of this. Almach is also known as Gamma Andromeda. Dave Hutchinson writes in the TASS newsletter that this star is a beautiful double star and a good color contrast with a yellow primary and a green-blue secondary reminiscent of Alberio and Cygnus. Actually, I use this star as one of the double stars we look at with the astronomy students at Brookhaven. Slide number 16, please. M31 is the Andromeda Galaxy, one of the finest deep sky showpiece objects in the heavens. It is bright enough to be visible to the naked eye from dark sky sites. But even in light-polluted skies, it can be seen in binoculars. I've seen it in binoculars and in telescopes right at Brookhaven campus, and it's the highest level of light pollution on the Bortle scale, if you know what I'm talking about. M31 is best viewed in low powers if you're trying to take in the whole galaxy at once. Higher power can be used for viewing details of the galaxy, and M31 spans over 3 degrees of the sky. So it's big enough that there's a lot of details to be seen. Recent estimates put M31 as 2.65 million light years from the Earth, making it the furthest object visible to the naked eye by most people. Some sharp-eyed folks can see M33 in triangulum under clear dark skies, which is a bit further away than M31. But for most people, M31 is the furthest they can see. Slide Master, slide number 17, please. M32 is one of the companion galaxies of M31. It's an elliptical galaxy that appears spherical in shape. At low powers, especially in smaller telescopes, it shows little detail, so it is almost indistinguishable from a star. In fact, there is a star similar in brightness very close by, so you may have to look at a photograph of M31 and M32 to be able to tell which object is a star and which is the galaxy. Slide number 18, please. You know, when I stop talking, Bob stops crying, but when I start talking, he's crying again. I don't know if you can hear him in the background or not. M110 is another small companion galaxy to M31, the Andromeda Galaxy. It appears further out from the nucleus of M31 than M32 does. M32 and M110 are analogous to the Magellanic Clouds of the Milky Way. But whereas the Magellanic Clouds are irregular galaxies, M31 and M32 and M110 are elliptical galaxies. Also, like the Milky Way, the Andromeda Galaxy has other smaller companion galaxies further out as well. M32 and M110, the companion galaxies, can also be observed with small aperture instruments from dark sky sight. I've been able to see both of them in binoculars before. An early 2000 experiment was done by Dennis Harwell. He pointed a 50-millimeter 2-inch refractor at M31 while under dark skies using a long focal eyepiece, which was, provided a magnification of only about 11 or 12 power. He could see all 3 galaxies with only a 2-inch aperture in his telescope. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. It's a challenge object. This is a globular cluster in M31. It orbits around M31 at a distance of about 100,000 light years from the galaxy's nucleus. It is estimated to have about 300,000 stars. If we could remove this object from M31 and place it next to Omega Centaur in the sky, it would be brighter than Omega Centaur. Omega Centaur is the globular star cluster that everyone looks at the Texas Star Party. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 20, please. I like it, JJ. Why don't you need a periscope to look at binary star cluster? Pair, two scopes? Okay, I understand. Slide Master, oh yeah, slide number 20 is what we're on. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Andromeda, the Princess. I have given you just a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. And Slide Master's slide number 21, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Andromeda the Princess. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used and borrowed and stolen for tonight. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next week, on December the 18th, my plan is not to present WhatsApp, well actually instead of WhatsApp, and I'm not going to present Constellation of the Week, but instead I'll go into what is becoming an annual tradition, the Star of Bethlehem. What was that star in the sky so long ago? I'll take a look at it from the Star of Bethlehem from an astronomical point of view. And this is KF5JHA sending it back to our net control. Tom, Grandpa, it's all yours. KE5ICX.
Oh, thank you, Jess, I think. That was wonderful. Well, except for the joke part, which was the... At any rate, this is KE5ICX net control for tonight's Skynet. Next up is space launches for the week. That's me, I guess. So let's go through some of these. We have, for December, the Launcher 1. Hey, let's listen to this. Launch site is Cosmic Girl at Boeing 747. 400, I believe. Mojave Air and Spaceport in California. Virgin Orbit Launcher 1 rocket will launch on its fourth flight after dropping from a modified Boeing 747 carrier jet. The mission will be Virgin Orbit's second operational launch, carrying 8 small satellites for the U.S. military space test program and 2 small satellites for the Polish company Sat Revolution. On December 12th, we have a rather large launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A Russian government Proton rocket will launch these Express AMU-3 and Express AMU-7 communication satellites for the Russian Satellite Communications Company, built by ISS Rosneft. These satellites will provide advanced communications, television, and radio broadcasting services for millions of users in Russia and other countries. Then we have December a Starlink 2-3 flight on a Falcon 9. This will launch from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. It's a batch of Starlink internet satellites from Vandenberg. This mission is expected to deploy 51 Starlink satellites for a high inclination orbit. Overnight, December 18th and 19th, we have a launch from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, Launch Complex 40. The SpaceX Falcon 9 will launch Turksat 5B communications satellite for Turksat, the satellite operator. It's built by Airbus Defense and Space with significant Turkish contributions. The 5B satellite will provide broadband services over a wide coverage area. On December 20th, we have the Russian government launching from the Palinspit Cosmodrome. This is in Russia. Angora A5 rocket will launch on its third orbital test with the Perseus or Persei upper stage derived from Russia's venerable Block DM upper stage. Russian officials have not identified the payload for the mission. On December 21st, yet another SpaceX Falcon 9 launch. This one is CRX-24 from historic Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. This will be the Dragon 2 spacecraft on its fourth cargo resupply mission for the International Space Station. The flight is the 24th mission by SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA. December 21st, we have a launch from the Takashima Space Center in Japan. The Japanese H-2A rocket will launch an Inmarsat 6F1 communication satellites for London-based Inmarsat. Let's see, this will provide L-band and Ka-band payloads to provide mobile communication services for aircraft and ships. The H-2A rocket will fly in the 204 configuration with 4 strap-on rocket boosters. On December 22nd, we have an Ariane 5. Everybody listen up, this is it. This is from Launch Complex ELA-3 from Corrieux, French Guiana. Ariane Space will launch the Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated VA-256 to launch the James Webb Space Telescope, a flagship observatory developed by NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. JWST is the largest space telescope ever built, with a deployable mirror measuring 21.3 feet in diameter and 4 scientific instruments to observe the universe in infrared wavelengths. The mission will study the formation of galaxies, stars, and planets. The Ariane 5 ECA rocket will launch JWST on a trajectory toward its operating position at the L2 Lagrange point, nearly 1 million miles from Earth. And then finally, on December 27th, we have a Soyuz launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 34 satellites into orbit from OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. The Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use, everybody say it together, the Fregat upper stage. And that's it for this segment. I am KE5ICX at Control for tonight. Next up is Miss Brenda. She's back, WB5OZL. What do you have for us on recent astronomical discoveries?
Thank you, Tom. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled Evidence Emerges for Dark Matter-Free Galaxies. An international team of astronomers led by researchers from the Netherlands has found no trace of dark matter in the galaxy AGC 114905, despite taking detailed measurements over the course of 40 hours with state-of-the-art telescopes. They will present their findings in monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. When Pavel Manserapina, the University of Groningen in Astron, the Netherlands, and his colleagues discovered 6 galaxies with little to no dark matter, they were told, measure again, you'll see that there will be dark matter around your galaxy. However, after 40 hours of detailed observations using the Very Large Array, VLA, in New Mexico, the evidence for a dark matter-free galaxy only became stronger. The galaxy in question, AGC 114905, is about 250 million light years away. It is classified as an ultra-diffuse dwarf galaxy, with the name dwarf galaxy referring to its luminosity and not to its size. The galaxy is about the size of our own Milky Way, but contains 1,000 times fewer stars. The prevailing data is that all galaxies, and certainly ultra-diffuse dwarf galaxies, can only exist if they are held together by dark matter. The researchers collected data on the rotation of gas in AGC 114905 for 40 hours between July and October 2020 using the VLA telescope. Subsequently, they made a graph showing the distance of the gas from the center of the galaxy on the x-axis and the rotation speed of the gas on the y-axis. This is a standard way to reveal the presence of dark matter. The graph shows that the motions of the gas in AGC 114905 can be completely explained by just normal matter. This is, of course, what we thought and hoped for because it confirms our previous measurements, says Pena. But now the problem remains that the theory predicts that there must be dark matter there, but our observations say there isn't. In fact, the difference between theory and observation is only getting bigger. In their scientific publication, the researchers list the possible explanations for the lack of dark matter one by one. For example, it could have been stripped of dark matter by large nearby galaxies, but there are none. And in the most reputed galaxy formation framework, the so-called cold dark matter model, we would have to introduce extreme parameter values that are far beyond the usual range. Also, with modified Newtonian dynamics, an alternative theory to cold dark matter, we cannot reproduce the motions of the gas within the galaxy. According to the researchers, there is one more assumption that could change their conclusions. That is the estimated angle at which they think they're observing the galaxy. But that angle has to deviate very much from our estimate because there is room for dark matter again, says co-author Tom Oosterloo. Meanwhile, researchers are examining a second ultra-diffuse dwarf galaxy in detail. If again they observe no trace of dark matter in that galaxy, it will make the case for dark matter-poor galaxies even stronger. The research of Pena and colleagues is not an isolated case. Earlier, for example, a Dutch-American Peter von Dogem discovered a galaxy with hardly any dark matter. The techniques and measurements of Pena and colleagues are more robust. This is from ScienceDaily.com and back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda, and this is KE5ICX with tonight's Skynet. Let's see, I guess we can do satellite passages over the next couple of days, so we'll do exactly that. Let me bring that stuff up. And we have here, not a lot. I've got the International Space Station isn't too bad. So we've got, let's see here. On December 12th, we have one, let me throw the thing up here, minus 2.0 magnitude. It'll be at 1852 in the evening. Is the start out of the west-northwest to reach its highest point at 36 degrees at 1855 and then fall to the south-southeast east at 1858. The really good one, though, is on December 7th. Oh, my goodness. You know what? I can't give you that information because I don't have the appropriate coupler up. So none of that I'm going to tell you is going to do you any good. Oh, well. So I'm not even going to bother because that's not the appropriate longitude and latitude. I thought something was wrong when I saw it. So we'll just skip that part since I can't do it. Let me go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins this evening. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Lee and Sherman on Echo Link.
First, and Billy, KF5 PDS, our resident brilliant professor of mathematics over in Sherman. Thank you both for checking in this evening. And this is KE5I6, net control for tonight's Skynet. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they would like to talk about? Telescopes? Gift items, although it's still possible to get gift items, I hope. Maybe anyone have any questions about something they would like to get of an astronomical nature for a friend? Or something you would like that you want somebody to buy you? Cassegrainian mount, a Doppler with a, Cassegrainian lensing system. That would be nice. If anyone wants to get that for me, I'd appreciate it. But anyone have any questions, please come with your call.
Tom, somebody doubled with you. I think they're on Echolink. This is N5BB.
Okay, I was blabbing along, so anybody have, I guess I doubled with someone, so if you were on Echolink or anywhere and you heard me talking, try again. Okay, we will resume. Anybody have any questions they want to bring to tonight's net? We've got the usual suspects here, and they know a lot. So if you got a question, please come with your call.
K5 KTX.
K5 KTX, Miss Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. This is K5 KTX. I don't have a question, but you did mention holiday gift ideas, and I had mentioned this last week or the week before, but Sky Safari 7, which is the new version of Sky Safari, has just, they actually have a sale, a 50% off sale going on right now with 50% off on the Plus and the Pro versions of that app. They do have I think they have a free version as well, but I've been using this app for years. I don't have any affiliation with them, but I do know that it's a fantastic product. If you want to have a really good app where you can even track your observations and get a lot of information about the objects you're looking at, and there's just so many features. I've probably not even scratched the surface, but they are having a 50% off sale for both the Pro and the Plus editions. And I'm trying to get down to the bottom of the screen here. The sale goes on, it goes through the end of the year. So it ends on the 31st, and I believe they do have both iOS and Android, I believe, versions of that app. So that's all I have. This is K5KTX.
KF5JHA, recheck.
All right, thank you, Miss Kelly. KF5JHA, go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kelly. I just downloaded Sky Safari about 6 months ago. Actually used it at the West Texas Star Party last spring, and it was marvelous. It helped me out with recording all of my observations and also finding the objects. So I highly recommend that piece of software. It's on my my iPad Mini that I'm watching Skynet on right now. So it's a cool program. It really is. KF5JHA.
All right, very good. Does anybody have any questions about Sky Safari? I found it at skysafariastronomy.com if you want to learn more about it. But if anybody has any questions, bring them now.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima.
KG5WVL, go ahead with your question. I don't think I have you checked in. Could I get your name, please? Oh, no, I do. James, go ahead with your question.
This is James. Question I had was about the Leonard comet. Is there any place I can see a recording of that? I'm in a low spot where I live, and I cannot see it in either direction. KG5WVL.
KF5JHA.
Oh, Chaz, thanks. If you want to, you can contact James direct if you got any questions, KG5WVL. Go right ahead.
Hi, I just want to let you know, currently the comet is not really visible from inside the city. Neo-Wise, that comet that was around a year and a half ago, I should say, I tried and tried inside the city to try to find it. Couldn't do it at all. I had to go out of the country, and I could see it naked eye. And I tried optical aids inside the city to try to find it. Couldn't do it. So right now, this is not a comet you can see with your two eyes. You need optical aid even outside in the country. So you need to get away from the city lights and go somewhere where it's much darker. Right now, there aren't any public observing sessions here locally, so I'm not sure where you could go to do any observing. But if you have your own equipment, then I would suggest go to a Texas state park, camp out, and do some observing. You can find locating maps online for that comet. Just Google that, and you should be able to find it. Skynet Telescope usually has something online for that. This is KF5JHA. I hope I've helped you out.
Thanks, Chaz. This is KG5WVL.
Thank you both. And I guess maybe sometimes we need to be a little more interactive on this net because there are questions. We loaded up with so much information that we got plenty to cover in 90 minutes. Anyone else have any questions before we close?
Normal state.
Do we have any final check-ins? All right, tonight we had 26 hams participating on the air, including myself. About 27 if we include Gabby. She was here. She's not a ham, but she will be because she's already interested. She's laughing, but she really is interested. She's kind of geeky that way. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration, because on this net, the sky is never the limit. We're looking for net control stations for this and all the DARC nets, and we got a bunch of them. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow maybe net. Friedchicken.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 local time. 7-3, everybody. Enjoy discovering the universe. We will be back in 5 minutes to discuss the quiet Earth from 1985. I'll need a net control. I can't talk anymore. My voice is going, gone. So you know who you are out there. Remember to step up and say, I'm Spartacus. We'll be back in 5. This is KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, KF5JHA. Just want a reminder of what the name of that dog that makes appearances in the background is.
That is Chloe, the dead dog.
Yeah, Chloe came up on Echolink, and I couldn't remember Chloe's name. There you go, John. Now you can even name the dog. KF5JHA, thank you, Tom, for a wonderful net.
Do I have anybody who'd like to do the net control this evening? Somebody say yes. I've done it 2 weeks in a row. Come on, somebody. Step up to the plate.
WB50ZL, I'll do it.
You're so nice. It sounds like a death gargle, though. Will you make it all the way through?
I made it through the whole week like this. I guess I'll do another night.
Well, I forgot you felt terrible. It's hard to tell in text when you're typing back and forth. You want somebody else to do it?
I don't hear him running forward.
Bill might be out there. Bill, N5BB. How about KB9SOK, Sean? Of course, he may be doing late traffic net right now.
It's okay, I'll do it.
I'll make a deal with you since you sound about the same condition I am. When you start failing, I'll come in and I'll do my death gargle after yours. How's that? If you get to that point.
Sounds like a deal.
All right, well, I guess it starts in about 10 seconds.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. This is WB50ZL. This is the Afterglow Movie Net. And tonight's movie is called The Quiet Earth, a movie from a New Zealand movie from 1985. We already read Tom's whimsical synopsis earlier. Before we get started, does anyone need to use the net? Okay, here is the real plot. July 5th begins as a normal winter morning near Hamilton, New Zealand. At 6:12 a.m., the sun darkens for a moment and a red light surrounded by darkness is briefly seen. Zach Hobson is a scientist employed by Delenco, part of a U.S.-led international consortium working on Project Flashlight, an experiment to create a wireless global global energy grid to power military equipment. He awakens abruptly, then he turns on his radio and he's unable to receive any transmissions. He gets dressed and drives into the deserted city Investigating a fire, he discovers the burning wreckage of a passenger jet, but there are no bodies, only empty seats. Zach enters his laboratory but fails to contact any of the other labs around the world. In an underground lab, he discovers the dead body of a colleague and a control panel. The monitor displays the message, Operation Flashlight Complete. The mass disappearance seems to coincide with the moment flashlight was activated. The lab is suddenly and automatically sealed because of radiation, so he improvises a bomb to escape. He listens to his own voice on a tape recorder describing the project as having phenomenal destructive potential, and notes, Zach Hobson, July 5th. 1. There has been a malfunction in Project Flashlight with devastating results. 2. It seems I'm the only person left on Earth. From this point onward, it refers to the crucial moment and its result as the effect. After a week of vain attempts to contact another human being, Zach moves into a mansion. His mental state begins to deteriorate. He puts on a woman's nightgown and alternates between exhilaration and despair. He assembles cardboard cutouts of famous people, including Adolf Hitler, Elizabeth II, and Pope John Paul II. Plays loud fanfare and cheers from large speakers, addressing the cutouts from a balcony. He declares himself president of this quiet earth and goes on a destructive rampage after the power blacks out. He bursts into a church, shoots a statue of Jesus off a crucifix, and announces that he is God. After accidentally crushing an empty pram with an enormous earth mover, he puts the barrel of a shotgun into his mouth, but finally comes to his senses. Zach settles into a more normal routine. One morning, a young woman named Joanne appears. Zach is attracted to her, and after a few days together, they have sex. They scour the city and find a third survivor, a large Maori man named Appy. The three determine why they survived, and at the instant of the effect, they were all at the moment of death. Appy was being drowned in a fight. Joanne was electrocuted by a faulty hairdryer, and Zach had overdosed on pills on a suicide attempt. He had realized the experiment posed serious dangers and was guilt-ridden for not speaking out. A love triangle develops, but Zach is more concerned about his scientific observations. Universal physical contacts are changing, such as the value of electron charge, causing the sun's output to fluctuate. Zach fears the effect will occur again and decides to destroy the Delenko facility in an attempt to stop it. The three put aside their personal conflicts and drive a truckload of explosives to the installation, only to be stopped at the perimeter when Zach detects dangerous levels of ionizing radiation emanating from the plant. He says that he will go to town and retrieve a remote control device to send the truck to the facility. While Zach is gone, Joanne and Appy have sex. Afterwards, Appy tells Joanne he will sacrifice himself by driving the truck. He doubts that Zach's device will be capable of controlling the vehicle. They then hear the truck and realize Zach did not go to town after all. He drives the truck onto the weakened roof of the underground portion of the laboratory, which collapses. Just the effect reaches a maximum, he triggers the explosives. Once again, a bright red light is seen surrounded by dark tunnel. Zach awakens to find himself lying face down on a beach at twilight. There are strange cloud formations resembling water spouts rising out of the ocean. He walks to the water's edge, glancing momentarily at his tape recorder as an enormous ringed planet slowly appears over the horizon. Then there's additional information. The precise meaning of the final scene is left to the audience. In his commentary on the Umbrella and Entertainment DVD release, writer-producer Sam Pillsbury states, "We all thought it was quite simple. I mean, our attention was just that. What happened was he died at the moment of the effect for a second time, and now he's found himself in another world, and what the hell is he going to do? He then says, more or less jokingly, that director Jeff Murphy, being a Catholic or lapsed Catholic, may well have been something to do with purgatory and, being trapped in cyclical and going back into having to relive your thing until you work out your karma, something possibly, if I'm not mixing my metaphors. Anyway, enigmatic is good, I think, to a certain extent. We may get into that. What do you think the meaning, the ending meant? All right, going to take check-ins. We'll take short time in low power first. Please give us phonetically your call sign, your name, and whether or not you saw the movie. So please come now. Nobody there. How about general check-ins, please?
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Tom, Louisville. I saw the movie.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. David in Dallas, where is everybody?
Oh, this is discouraging. We got KE5ICX Tom, who did see the movie. W5EBB David, did you see this movie?
Yes, I did. W5EBB.
Thank you. Do we have any Echo Link check-ins?
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. Yes, I have seen the film.
Okay, KF5PDS, Billy, who did see the film. Okay, anybody else? Well, okay, let's start talking about the plot. Maybe somebody else will get curious and join us. KE5ICX. Tom, what did you think about the plot?
Hi, Miss Brenda. Thank you for doing the net this evening. I kind of enjoyed it. I saw this movie way back when it did come out. It was one of the bargain bin VHS tape that I bought for like $1 or something back in the mid-'80s. But I watched it and I really enjoyed it. It's very similar to, say, I Am Legend or without zombies, of course. The Last Man on Earth, the Omega Man, that sort of thing. And it has some of the same kind of same vibe that Zach provides in that, the euphoria and craziness that goes along with it. But I can relate to that because I'm in a giant building and there's like just a few people in it. So I live that every day. Not the dress part or the screaming and yelling or using the gun, but everything else is pretty much the same. I liked it. I thought it was an interesting story. I thought that the science with it was a bit thin. How the heck the Earth and the Moon, Earth and the Sun could suddenly go crazy and change, you know, electrons and that from Operation Flashlight. You would think by the code name maybe the flashlight part of it might tell you something, but it really didn't. So I don't know. All I can tell you is that it was somewhat thin science. I liked all the old technology, though. It was pretty cool. The tractor feed and all that was pretty interesting. The three characters, Zach, Joanne, and Oppie, you knew there was going to be sort of that jealousy thing that was going to happen. You could see that coming without too much trouble. I thought it was pretty entertaining that every time Zach did something, he'd get bored and go even bigger. So when he started playing with the electric train, the next thing we see, he's doing a full-blown train down the tracks at a really fast rate of speed. I thought that was rather brilliant myself. So I thought that was a lot of fun. For a relatively low-budget movie, I thought it was well done and well executed. It was photographed rather well. You got to see New Zealand back in the 1980s, which is, I guess, kind of a cool thing as well. It hasn't changed, I guess, that much from what I've seen since. As you know, I'm kind of a fan of New Zealand stuff, and I've subjected you to New Zealand stuff as virtually everybody ever shows things. So I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm not sure where it was filmed, though. I have to go back and look more carefully and see North Island or what. At any rate, I guess I'll stop there for now. But, the ending. The ending is anything you want it to be. The purgatory thing seems to make a lot of sense. But why not, right? You could have a Twilight Zone episode end that way, and you say, that was pretty good. And then you could argue about it. But when it's an hour and a half long and it's a full thing, you say, I don't know. So we'll see. And do you have something you want to say, too?
I kind of agree with you on everything.
Oh, okay. Gabby's still here. She helped do the net control stuff. She may have some comments along the way, but at any rate, I'll leave it to the next folks here. KE5ICX.
All right, W5EBB, David, what did you think of the plot?
Well, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. We have seen similar movies many, many times. The apocalyptic last man or couple or trio, the last few people on Earth. New Order could have maybe written a song named Bizarre Apocalyptic Love Triangle to describe this movie. Zach at the end was the only one of the three who died when the sun had its last fit. Therefore, he was the only one who was remaining in the end. But frankly, I don't think this is too clever a movie. It doesn't really add too much to the apocalypse movie trope or to the love triangle trope. It just sort of smashes them together. And as for the ending, I get the sense that the writer didn't really know how to end it, so he just left it up to the audience to decide what it all meant. W5EBB.
Yeah, we've seen that before. They just didn't know what to do, so they just stopped it. Or let's put up something very vague and say, oh, it's up to you to decide what it is. Which, I kind of feel like we didn't get our money's worth. But KF5PDS, Billy, plot.
Good evening, everyone. I think it's just very minimal in its telling, and it's very direct. There's not a lot to it. It's been a while since I've seen it. I didn't get to watch it this week, but I'm with Tom. I saw it when it came out. When we first had cable in the house, that was a movie that they played a lot, and I remember watching it many times trying to figure out the ending. To this day, if there's any one single thing that stands out in my memory, is that ending with all those weird geysers spouting and the ringed planet rising. That is, to me, one of the most striking images in sci-fi movies. It just really stays with you because you don't know what to make of it. And, and they all, like you were saying, everybody can make of it what they want. And sometimes to me, that's a sign of, interesting writing when it leaves you asking more questions than you came in with. But I think it was, I'm with David. I thought it was our love triangle also. I like the apocalyptic edition. So, yeah, it's just very strange and offbeat. But it does have that kind of Richard Matheson feel to it. So I really don't have any major standout things because, like I said, the memory of watching it is not terribly fresh, except for the ending. So, if anything, I watch it just to get that ending. I'll have to watch it again and have more recent take on it. But anyway, that's my 2 cents for right now. So I'll throw it back to you. This is KF5 PDS, back to net.
Thank you, Billy. Do we have any more check-ins? All right, it's my turn. Well, I found the movie rather interesting. You keep trying to figure out what's going on or what happened to cause this catastrophe, and wondered what's going to happen to the guy. It reminds me of a lot of other Last Man on Earth movies, where they go around and they get all the clothes and all the food, and they sort of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They just kind of go wild, entertaining themselves, which I find odd. I'm not sure that would be my response to that situation. But, of course, she saw him go crazy and then try to figure things out. So you had a lot of mood swings with this guy. I was a little frustrated that they never really, or I never felt like we had a good explanation of why all of the people disappeared. I understand they made some kind of scientific experiment and caused an instability in the sun in, atoms. But I don't know why this was like a rapture that happened. That everybody just disappeared. And if dying at that moment would be the thing to save you, I would think there'd be other people in the world, 8 billion of us, think there'd be other people who would have had been in the same situation, and you wonder if you might have, if you looked harder, you might have found some more people, not that it would matter. Then he wakes up on the beach at the end, all alone, and it's not nearly as interesting as being the only guy in a city with all the clothes and food and liquor and everything that you want. I can't imagine what you would do on the beach for all eternity, and probably not be able to kill yourself at that point. So I don't know. It was just really hard for me to understand what was going on and what was going to happen. But nevertheless, it was well played. The actors were good, and so because of that, I thought it was kind of interesting. Next up, characterization, KE5ICX.
All right, this is KE5ICX. Zach, of course, was probably the most interesting character, especially since he commands about the first 20 or 30 minutes of the 90-minute movie, where he's by himself through the whole thing. That was interesting, and trying to figure out exactly what happened to him. The commonality between the others as time goes on was always an interesting interesting puzzle to figure out, which Gabby and I are talking about right now, trying to figure out why certain things happen. But character-wise, Zach was very interesting. He was a complex character. He had feelings. He was sort of an ordinary, everyday man, which I thought was really great. He wasn't, you know, when you go and you watch something similar, like you're watching the Omega Man with Charlton Heston. I mean, we get Moses. He's the post-apocalyptic Moses, and that's what we expect. This character, Zach, played by Bruno Lawrence, is just an ordinary guy. Yes, he's a scientist, and he's probably got a lab coat that he never wears, but, you know, he's not particularly over the top. He does have his own personal computer, so he is kind of nerdy. But overall, I think we've just described ourselves. So we're ordinary and normal. We just don't live in a post-apocalyptic world yet, all by ourselves. Although now that I think about it, there's a couple of people I know that kind of do. Let's see. Allison Routledge, I guess, who played Joanne, she was quite good. She was a likable character, although there were times when she was oscillating between Uppy and Zach through this whole thing, and of course you knew that was going to happen as soon as Uppy showed up, that there would be a confrontation ultimately with Zach over the attentions of Joanne. So that was just to get me through all of it. But her whole thing was she was playing both sides, pretty much, and played it a lot. And it seemed to work for her. And it seemed to work for them until it didn't work for them anymore, and then it turned into a little bit of a soap opera. Trying to, I guess, I don't know. One thing I did want to mention, I don't know, because it's gone by so fast, because there's just a few of us here, go back to plot a little bit. Still trying to understand, and maybe somebody here can explain, where the heck, we had a couple of bodies, decomposing bodies in all of this. How come those bodies didn't disappear? If there was a crash, I mean, if there was a death just before or during this thing, that might have something to do with it, but I'm not entirely sure. Maybe that's what it was, because the one person was found was after an auto accident, and their body was there. So how long does that take? It's like a full moon and a new moon. How much time do you have where your body is somewhat preserved during this Operation Flashlight? And did Operation Flashlight cause these injuries, or was it the near-death or death experience that caused the injuries, or what? I'm not entirely sure. And maybe they thought they were about to die and then didn't die. But to me, the idea was that they did die. But would they see in their deaths these other people's deaths? I don't know. But then again, this also sounds a lot like trying to understand time travel, which is really difficult, and you can end up with nosebleeds. Okay, I think that's it. Gabby, you got anything?
I mean, I felt like the characters were pretty good. I liked Zach. He was very well-rounded. Like you said, he was ordinary and just kind of was just doing what I feel like anyone else would be doing in the scenario presented. I like Oppie, too. I wish we had gotten to see a little bit more of him, because I think he could have been very, very, very cool. Just because he was so kind of mysterious initially and all of that, and I really would have liked to have seen that play out a little bit more. But you gotta do what you gotta do, and I know that obviously the love triangle was kind of inevitable and all of that, but I don't know. I really enjoyed the characters, so I thought they were all pretty well-rounded, even though I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Oppie.
Okay, thanks. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, well, this is WB50ZL. My assumption that the dead bodies had died just before the event, and that's why they were lying around there. And they never did explain what happened to everybody that just disappeared. There was never any attempt to resolve that, and to me it was very troubling that we don't know why. And what happened to all the animals? You know, this guy needed a dog. It would have made his life a whole lot easier being the last person alive if he had a canine companion. W5EBB, what do you think about characters?
Well, of course, that was a boy and his dog. Who was that? Don Johnson? Or maybe I got the wrong movie. But yeah, just another variant of it, though. Well, Zach, yeah, he was kind of the main interesting character. You know, he considered the possibility that it wasn't that everybody else disappeared, but maybe it was they three who were the ones who disappeared, and everybody else just remained as they were on Earth, and they were wondering what happened to those three people. So that's the other angle, and because they really don't know, and it's the usual depiction when somebody is alone and isolated from society, all by themselves in isolation, that they go nuts, you know, and Zach goes off the deep end. But, you know, I'm not sure if that's the inevitable mental state that someone would devolve into. I mean, if you've got food, water, housing, toys, a computer, you could play chess with the computer all day long. You can play Space Wars and Pong. You know, we're not talking, you know, a recent technology computer, but, you know, you could get along with the computer just like people get along with their tablets and online gaming and everything. So he could have made friends with his computer, and he would have been mentally okay, I think. Joanne, yeah, she played her role well. I think she was well cast for it. You know, she's attractive, and yep, you knew that love triangle was coming. Appy, and you know, he played his character well too. And you know, the guy who played Appy, Aaron Neville, went on to make that wonderful duet with Linda Ronstadt. I don't know much, and that pretty much describes my take on the movie. I don't know much. W5EBB.
Okay, KF5PDS, characters.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting juxtaposition of characters. You know, you have one that's a scientist that happens to be involved with the project, and I think that, you know, helps move the plot along, because if none of them were involved with the project, we wouldn't have any insight into it. So we need Zach and his insight. I think this was the first movie that I'd ever seen at the time that came out of New Zealand. So I was not familiar with the Maori culture. So I think that was my first encounter with a character from that culture. So it brings in different cultural aspects. And, you know, other than that, I'm trying to think. It's just been a while since I've seen the film. To remember, I sometimes I'm thinking, as I was thinking about this film while y'all were talking, and you mentioned a boy and his dog, I was trying to remember if this was the film where he had, like, all the stood up and was playing music and he was standing on a dais, like, talking to them all, or am I confusing that with A Boy and His Dog? Because I've seen that more recently than I have seen The Quiet Earth, so I'm not sure if I am remembering correctly. But I found the, you know, scenes that reminded me very much of I Am Legend, you know, where they have that breakdown moment where they're not quite in touch with reality because the reality has changed so much, and they're having a hard time wrapping their mind around what's happening to them. So, and then they kind of come through that moment, and you almost, you know, it's like they want to accept the situation, but then Zach still doesn't quite accept it and wants to resolve it. And they never really, did they ever really say what Project Flashlight was, or why they called it Project Flashlight? That's a question to me, is why did they give it that particular name? Other than that, nothing comes to mind that I can think of, so I'll return it to you, Brenda. This is KF5PDS, back to net.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. No, I also wondered why they called it Project Flashlight, but this whole thing was just a setup to to make the story, and they didn't really have a good way to explain it. So, you know, it's just kind of a black hole there. I think that Will Smith movie, he also had a dog, which really helps the story a lot. So many movies like this, and are even not necessarily apocalyptic, but think about being stranded on an island like Castaway, or I don't remember the other. It's a very classic old book about a guy who's stranded on an island, and these people make productive use of their time. They study things, or think about things, or think about POWs who are in isolation for years at a time. They find ways to keep their sanity by, you know, recalling their memories or learning things. And this guy just gave into it. He was not determined to try and fight for his sanity, which, of course, kind of came back when Joanne shows up, and, you know, he's not alone anymore, so, but then they got pretty productive. We're going to go look for people or find out what's going on. So he did regain some of his sanity at that point. I like the Appy character. I would have, you know, liked to have had him fleshed out more. Or the Joanne character. They didn't tell you much about her background either. So, well, that's about all I got to say about characters. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, moving along to special effects. Maybe we can think of something to say about this. KE5ICX. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, well, there wasn't a lot in the way of special effects, such as it was. Although it was pretty cool when they blew up the lab. They probably deserved it anyway. So I liked that. That was fun. And they blew up the dish. That was fun. But I think Billy hit upon it. Probably the most memorable scene, of course, is the sunrise with the weird clouds, spouts, and the ringed planet. That was pretty cool. It looked a lot like some of the, you know, book covers I've seen, paperback book covers I've seen through the years. But overall, that's the most memorable part of it. It was pretty cool. Photography-wise, it looked good. I like what they did. The guy who did the music on it was also quite good. I never heard of him before, and I can't think of the name right now, but I should go back and check him out. He actually did a very good job. I thought the music was fitting with the film, had the right kind of feeling throughout the film, and I think that worked out really well. Overall, I think the pacing was pretty darn good. It was 90 minutes. That's about the right length for a movie like this, especially when you got a guy who's carrying the whole thing for 30 minutes of the film with talking to no one else. That's a plus. That really is. So the pacing, the visuals that they did, the different angles and things to keep it interesting without it getting too stagnant in a stagnant world, I think they did very, very well. So I was overall pleased with the film. I'd forgotten about it when I saw that it was online, and I haven't seen it in years since the VHS machine blew out. That was the last time I saw it with the exact. So I think that pretty much covers it. And my assistant here, do you have anything?
I thought the ending was probably the best in terms of special effects. I thought the clouds that they had were really cool. And obviously the planet, the ring planet, was really cool. And I think it's kind of like cool to remember too that this was like back in the 80s. And I think special effects of the time, it it was honestly not even, like, that bad. Like, I thought they looked very good, and I think even in today's society, had I seen that movie, I probably would have been, all right, you know, it's great at special effects, but not bad. I wouldn't have thought I was watching a cheesy sci-fi movie. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. So, yeah.
I concur. KE5ICX.
Okay, W5EBB, special effects or anything else you want to talk about?
Well, correction, Appy was not played by Aaron Neville, but by astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. No, wait, that's wrong, too. It was actually Pete Smith of Maori descent, a New Zealand actor. Final answer. I agree with Tom. The music was really good. A highlight of the movie. I liked the music a lot. Other special effects, visual, just pretty much practical effects and action scenes, and they were done well. I did notice about the computer. You notice how in this, you see it in war games and other movies, whenever you see the text, typing across the computer screen, you hear beeping noises and noises when it scrolls. Computers have never done that unless they're trying to make that effect, in a game or something. But they don't make beepy noises every time a character goes across the screen. Just a little numerology in the movie. The clocks read 6:12, I guess a.m. And you see that, and it's like Groundhog Day. It's a given time. That's what you see everywhere, and that's basically when things stopped, I guess. But what's the significance of 6:12? Well, who knows. But according to Wikipedia, the book with the same name, The Quiet Earth, the author says that it's a reference to the number of the beast, 666, and to Revelation 6, verse 12. But I read that, and I really don't see the correlation. But I think Ecclesiastes 6:12 might be a better reference to describe the movie. But it's just another one of those things thrown in to kind of make you wonder what if any significance was there to that. But good music, pretty good action, pretty good story, and a okay movie. W5EBB.
Yeah, generally religion was completely absent in this movie, which who knows? I think that's unrealistic, but who am I to say? KF5PDS, Billy.
As far as special effects, the ending scene just takes the cake. And I'm not sure what the production was, the details on that. Tom, I looked up the man's name who did the score. His name is John Charles. And I was looking up other things to see if there's anything else that stood out, and I didn't recognize anything. So, but he's done a lot of different scores, but I didn't recognize anything on the list of accomplishments that he's had. So, I really don't have anything else to add, so I look forward to hearing what we're going to do next week. So this is KF5PD now.
Okay, well, I don't have too much to comment on the special effects. They just almost weren't there except that last scene, which wasn't terribly, it was spectacular, but it wasn't terribly impressive in terms of special effects. So, did anybody else have any comments about anything? Just give me your call sign and we'll do another round. Do we have any other check-ins?
W5EBB with a comment.
W5EBB, go ahead.
Well, that interesting cloud formation, I think there's actually a terrestrial version of that. It's called a virga, V-I-R-G-A, It's a streak or shaft of precipitation falling from a cloud that evaporates or sublimates before reaching the ground. So that may be similar to what was depicted in that final scene, a Virga, a W5EBB.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, KE5ICX, what are we going to do next week?
All right, I'm going by memory because I can't get into the Facebook thingy, but I am about 99% sure. Are you ready for this? 2017, Elvis in space. And I'm not making it up. KE5ICX.
I wondered where he went. All right, we're going to close the net. It's 11:19. This is one of the shortest afterglows we've ever had, but it is what it is. All right, WB50Z all clear.